This video is long overdue, but better late than never. And there's a lot of other things that I'm wanting to open up about, but I can't talk about the current chapter that I'm in when I never talked about the previous chapter. So, fuck it, here we go. There's a lot of reasons why I never talked about my divorce in detail, because I don't like drama, and I wasn't wanting to come across as someone who was intentionally trying to hurt anyone. After one post that I made shortly after our separation, he messaged me and said that people were messaging him, asking him questions in regards to my post about the details of what happened between us, making speculations and things. So he asked me to not talk about it on my page, and I told him then that he wasn't going to silence me and I was going to do what I wanted and talk about it. But because of that, because there were multiple people involved, I chose not to go in detail about everything, and it just seemed at the time like the best choice. But I've been suffering silently for a long time, and someone reminded me that my vulnerability is my strength, and sharing online has always been extremely important to me. Talking about my eating disorder and the hope that I felt in recovery was my mission on my Instagram for the longest time, and just sharing with the close followers that I had about my daily life and what was going on, just the ups and downs, the struggles. But it became really hard after the divorce to keep that up, because I couldn't authentically talk about my recovery to the same degree, because it wasn't the pressing issue anymore. It wasn't the thing on my mind, and I didn't want to just force it for the sake of it. I also definitely kind of reached a point where I felt like I had closed the book on it, that it was time for me to just live and enjoy life instead of continually reliving it through talking about it, if that makes sense. I think that it's beautiful when people use their recovery as their story to inspire others, but I didn't want to just keep making that my thing, you know. It was just time for me to live my life and actually enjoy the benefits of recovery. But there's been a lot of other pain and struggles and anger and issues that have been going on because of the divorce that I didn't feel at liberty to talk about. And I'm changing that now. We haven't talked even briefly for any reason in about 2 years, so I think he's out of my life enough to where what I say and my truth should not affect him at all. But also, he shouldn't care what I or my followers think of him. So I'll just say with the obvious that this is not to be malicious or to start anything. It is just, it's my truth and where I've been and what I've went through as a result of everything that happened. And I want to talk about that, not just to get it off my chest, but for anyone else who's going through a divorce. It's a lot different when you actually go through it. It's one of those things that you hear about all the time. It's around us constantly, so you kind of don't expect it to feel the way that it does when it happens. It becomes this word that takes on a whole other meaning, something that you never thought that would happen to you. All of a sudden, you don't want to say it out loud. He was someone that I thought that I was going to spend the rest of my life with, truly. I didn't see it ending. right up until the very end. There were signs that something had changed right before, but there weren't, like, I wasn't at a place where I was like, oh my gosh, is my marriage in trouble? We had been together for almost a decade, and he was my absolute best friend. We did everything together. There were problems, yeah, but I always just assumed that every relationship has issues, and so it wasn't something that was threatening us. I thought that he was being honest with me. I thought that he was comfortable being honest with me. And so if he wasn't happy, I thought that he would have told me. In 2019, there was an artist on Instagram that he'd done some art collabs with, and I knew about those and had no issue with them. He had other artist friends that they talked all the time, and that was fine. But right up until the end, or towards the end, he started acting a little differently. And when someone has a new kind of spring in their step, and he said that he was starting to want to take pictures of himself again, that he was wanting to do things to improve his appearance again. And I just felt this gut feeling like something wasn't right. And one night, I went through his phone, and I found messages between him and this girl. And I had no idea that they'd been talking as much as they had. And I was fine with that. If they were just talking and I knew about it, no big deal. But it was the fact that I realized he'd been messaging her when he was sitting next to me, and I had no idea. He was completely concealing it. And then I noticed that multiple things that he was saying, the patterns, the way he started talking to her, were really similar to the way that he was talking to me in the beginning of our relationship. They were sharing music, and it was getting a little bit more personal about their lives. And I really didn't want it to be true, but I was like, this looks like... So I talked to him about it, and he denied it completely. Put the blame on me, saying that he only hid the conversations because he knew how I'd be. He never could take responsibility for his own shit. He told me that he didn't have feelings for this person, but that he just realized we'd be better off divorcing. Just sprung it out of the blue this one night, having a conversation. Things just went from my life being normal, living with my husband, to him telling me, yeah, I think we should get a divorce. He couldn't look at me after that. I wasn't comfortable staying in our small bedroom with him. I slept on the floor in another room for a couple of days, and he still avoided me every chance that he could. I didn't even see him for days being in the house. So I took our vehicle and went out and lived in it for a few days, just driving around, feeling like I was losing my mind. I wasn't comfortable telling anybody what was going on. I didn't want to admit it or say it out loud. The tags were dead on the vehicle. And so one night, the police saw me crying at a gas station while I was getting gas, and they said that the tags were dead and asked what was going on and if I was okay, and I told them that my husband didn't want me in the house, and that I was just kind of out, just existing, and they threatened to go and talk to him. I told him no, that I'd go home and stop driving it around, and I went and told Bocce this, and he freaked out and told me that I wasn't allowed to drive it anymore, and he ended up chasing me, and this really, really traumatized me. To this day, if someone catches me off guard, I jump and about just come out of my skin. He was so angry, and him trying to stop me and control me, him not wanting me in the house. He was going to try to force me to go to my parents. I did not want to go there. I was not ready to completely move out yet, or to even tell them what was going on, but he was wanting to take me there. So him trying to stop me from being able to leave in the vehicle just sent me spiraling. So I ran on foot and stayed at someone's house for a couple days, just kind of hiding out. And I couldn't believe that was my life, that was happening to me, and that everything just got turned upside down so quickly by the person that I had loved and trusted so much. I eventually did have to tell my parents what was going on, and I really had no choice but to move back in with them at that point. I had no other job. I didn't own my own vehicle. The vehicle that I'd been around in, it was a slowly dying vehicle. He had recently bought another car that he was using for work, and so I was very trapped. Going back home was really hard. Knowing how challenging it was going to be to rebuild my life, starting with absolutely nothing. Just the nights of laying in bed, unable to sleep, unable to eat, unable to drink, because I was just absolutely sick with heartache. And every time that I fell asleep, I had some very vivid nightmare about him, about everything that was happening, about him being with her. And so I just felt absolutely tormented and couldn't find any relief. I think about a week went by, and then we talked again. I told him that I just needed him in my life in some form, because he was my best friend, and I didn't know what to do, because I felt like I was losing my best friend along with my love. And he said that he would take me out driving to look for a new vehicle. And while we were together, it seemed like nothing had changed or anything was wrong. We were getting along, we were laughing, and that gave me a false sense of hope for a while that things were going to turn around. I was like, oh, this is actually a new start. We're going to start over fresh. We're going to take care of any issues that have been there. We're going to be happy. Like, I will do anything, whatever it takes to be with this person. And so I got really excited, thinking that that it was all going to turn out for the best and that we would end up back together again. And I expressed this to him a few days later, and he said something about that nothing had changed and that we definitely weren't getting back together, that he'd made it just his decision and he was happy. And that just sent me spiraling all over again, because it felt like being on the ground, getting up, and then being kicked down again. And I absolutely could not handle it. I hit absolute rock bottom. I was in so much pain. The grief and the heartache, and my reality feeling like it was just collapsing to that degree. I just could not cope with it. And so I did try to take my life. And thankfully, that didn't turn out. Ended up in the hospital. Was sent to a mental hospital from there, which was an absolute hell. I spoke briefly about that in one of my videos from 2019. But that was, it was not at all helpful. It was the opposite of helpful. And it was in there with truly mentally unstable people that I just realized, like, what am I doing? I started meditating in my bed there and had a really radical experience. I talked about that in that video if you're interested, but just briefly, I just had this energy just pump through me, and had a sort of revelation and a new strength where I was just like, I'm going to pull myself out of this. No one else is going to do it, and I have to pull forward, and I have to save myself. I have to get through this. The doctor that released me, I told him about my situation. He said, you don't belong in here. You just need to be around family and to heal. And he said, if he's acting that way, he absolutely has someone else lined up. And the gaslighting that Bocce pulled on me just added to this whole other level of feeling out of touch with reality. The fact that I knew what was going on, and he was denying that he had any feelings for this person. While we were in that brief period of hanging out looking for the vehicle, I asked him again, is this because of that girl? And he said no. And he was quite a liar, and I could tell when he was lying. But having him deny it, it just made me more angry. And so a while later, we messaged. First I'll say, after I got back home, I went through a really intense period of just meditation, focusing on myself, healing, listening to inspiring videos on YouTube, just restoring my strength and my ability to pull myself back together. And it was a beautiful, beautiful time. It just felt supernatural almost. Just really intensely sweet. Working on the relationship with myself. And, was able to find a vehicle on my own, and loved that vehicle. It's still a vehicle that I have now. An amazing old Isuzu Rodeo. The first vehicle that was solely in my name. So that was a beautiful fresh start. I met Dustin online and we started talking. And that gave me a new hope and felt like a new beginning that I could see changing everything. So, us living in a small area, Dustin had come to visit me, and people had seen us together, and everyone talks in the area, everyone knows everybody's business. So I was like, okay, I think I'll be the one to tell Bachi that I'm with somebody else, so he doesn't just hear from somebody else. And when I messaged him to let him know, like, hey, just let you know, heads up, this has happened. I could tell from his writing style that he was talking like that girl, using an emoji that he'd never used before that she used. I've always been able to pick up on small details. I think because people have not been honest with me so often in my life, I hyperanalyze things often. So I noticed that right away. It's like, if you're talking like someone else, this means you're still in contact with them. So I messaged him, or when I was talking to him then, I said, so do you still deny that you're not talking to that girl? And he said, I am. I was like, yeah, I could tell because you're talking like her. And in that conversation, something was said, and he still denied that he left me for her. And him not being able to just own up to what he'd done just made me lose all sorts of respect, and really fucked with my mind. Spoiler alert, they got married a week after our divorce was finalized. Yeah, that made me angry. It made me very, very angry. It hurt me intensely. This was someone who had told me that as much as they loved me, they were still afraid of the idea of marriage because his parents had divorced and he didn't want that to be a possibility. And so we were together for 5 years before we got married. So it kind of just felt like a slap in the face when he met this person in person for the first time. And then a couple of months later, they got married. I have never known, nor will I ever know again, such intense levels of betrayal as I did with that guy. Because of that, my trust for people has suffered immensely. It's something that I still have to work on because I fear people deceiving me, not being honest with me. I've always wanted honesty at the heart of my relationship. For our relationship to be as intense as it was, and to just end so abruptly, and then having it end with him immediately running off and marrying someone else. it felt like, how on earth can this be real? I had Dustin, and um, it felt like exactly what I needed. He is so patient and kind and understanding, and was happy to be there as I broke and fell apart over and over again, and worked on mending and rebuilding my life into something new. There are so many mixed emotions when you're going through something like this, because it is a complete wiping of the slate where you just get a fresh start, like shedding an old skin, and everything is new again. And so in that ways, things can be really beautiful and exciting. And ultimately, I am so glad that this happened, because I loved him so much, and I never would have left him no matter what happened. But looking back now, in hindsight, I see things that I wasn't aware of in the marriage, because I was blinded by love. And that's not what I would have wanted for the rest of my life. I've changed and done so much since starting over, moving out of state, being in a new place. And it's allowed me to revisit things and heal areas and pains that went far back even before the divorce. So it's really helped my character and my life in general. And I give myself all of the credit for that, because it absolutely could have destroyed me. I could have let it make me waste away into nothing. I absolutely could have fallen back into my eating disorder. One thing that made me really angry was in the beginning of the separation, he told my sister that he was glad that he was at least there for me to help me get through my eating disorder. And that just infuriated me, because he did nothing for that. He can't take that credit. I pulled myself out of my eating disorder, and he absolutely could have given me cause to fall back into it by crushing my world. I'm the one who held myself together. I'm the one who made the decision to fight, to make something of my life again. He can't take any credit for anything except being a coward, someone who can't be honest, who can't take responsibility for their own mistakes. I will say that he has apologized and said that he never meant to hurt me, but I have yet to come to a place where I can truly forgive him. I have tried, for my own sake, just to be able to fully let go. But to this day, I am still angry. And I don't know how long it will be before I reach a place where I'm not. There's definitely times where I'm not. But then it can get triggered by something. And yeah, it's a symphony of emotion where you're dealing with a whole new life, and that's exciting and beautiful. But then There are moments where a memory just randomly comes to you. You remember an inside joke. You remember a word that they said, or a song comes on and it immediately takes you back. You just want to turn to the closest person and be like, this was our song, or I listened to this with them over and over again. And then it drops you, and it's heartache that quickly gives way to confusion and anger and wondering how the hell this happened. How the person that you trusted with everything in your entire life is the one that hurt you more than anybody else possibly ever could. And there is a lot of regret. I try to not feel regret because everything that has happened in my life has led me to this moment. But that being said, how much better my life could have been if he'd never been a part of it. And the anger that I feel, so many firsts and experiences and special things, my 20s wasted with somebody that would just drop me, that I wish I could have given those to someone else. But those are just raw, honest thoughts. I am proud of myself. And if anybody is going through something similar, I just want to inspire you that what it can teach you is how important you are, your relationship with yourself. That I know now that I can get through anything. There's still so much hard shit. And there's still days where it feels like you're just going to lose your mind. But then you remember what you faced and what you overcame. That you can trust yourself to get through it. That anyone can walk in and out of your life and it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. But if people do, oh well. When you can hold on to that, well, the love of my life walked away and here I stand smiling. So, fuck anyone. I say that in the most positive way. Fuck anyone who thinks that they can break me. Because he left, I got to start over in this new town that is beautiful, with a man that is so wonderful, so patient, so loving, intelligent, and wonderful. Someone who was exactly what I needed, who would hold me close and comfort me and allow me to be broken. And you need that. You need to allow yourself to grieve the loss of something that meant so much. And the recognizing that your life has taken a different path than you ever thought it possibly could. I never, ever imagined even the possibility of him leaving. So the fact that he did and I survived it impresses the hell out of me that I'm okay. I've met so many wonderful people here, had jobs that I've loved, and I've really dug really deep into my past, my feelings, my beliefs, and even just recently have allowed new levels of acceptance of who I am at my core, what I want, what I feel. I'm trying to allow the pain to just be okay and not something that I'm desperate to push away or change immediately. So there it is. I've been so angry. And I'm really hoping that releasing this video publicly is a step in letting it go. I'm sorry for anyone who has gone through something similar. To lose someone you love and imagine your entire life with is unbelievably hard. But to be brave enough to start over again, I want to be the example of how beautiful that can be. It is the end. It is absolutely the end. And so you have to allow yourself the time and the space to grieve that, to let it devastate you, that something beautiful was lost and it died and it hurts like hell. But when something ends, something new begins. And to allow yourself to get lost in the thrill of starting over. It's like getting to be young again in a way. Because it is so new. So let it be. Let it be. Let it happen. Let it hurt. Let it be amazing. Let go and feel and bask in your strength, your courage to take it on. I'm glad to be sharing this with you guys. Thank you if you've made it this far.